Reading, continue reading from Simanaha Siksa, Splendid Instructions to the Mind by Raghunath Das Goswami. Currently, we are on verse number 7 and reading the commentary by Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. So we will continue. That's why in his writing and books, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has created a synthesis of these two paths. The first path is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, is when we have faith in the Shastras and are convinced by their logic. Thanks to this logic, we constantly make efforts in our spiritual practices, such as hearing Srimad Bhagavatam discourses. At some point, hearing the Shastras, we get a spark of attachment for Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about this in a very interesting way in his Kalyan Kalpataru. Quote, Krishna eventually bestows the jewel of independence unto those persons who are attached to the path of rules and regulations, thereby allowing them entrance into the path of spontaneous loving service. Becoming influenced by such spontaneity, remaining under the shelter of the mellow of unwedded love, the soul finally attains all the symptoms of aesthetic love for Krishna. Unquote. In other words, when we get attached to adherence to the rules of devotional service, beginning first of all with Shravanam, we obtain the jewel of freedom. We do this not because we have to, but because we want to. This precious jewel appears in our heart and becomes the reason we take to the path of raga, attachment to Krishna. And as a result, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we attain the desire for this secret love of God. The unchaste woman dancing in the heart. Another title. When we have driven deceptions out of our hearts, all the while there remains one last thing. There is no cheating anymore. But still, I want a little something, and that is the chief subject matter of the 7th verse. Pratishta drushta swapacharamani me rudi natet. Raghunath Das Goswami says, quote, in my heart there is a dancer, swapacha ramani. Ramani means a woman of easy virtue, a harlot. Moreover, she has special dietary preferences. Swapacha. Swapacha means she loves to cook dogs. And drushta means she is absolutely shameless. The name of that Swapacha Ramani, drushta, is Pratishta Asa, the desire for respect, honor, and fame. And then he goes on saying, Katham sadhu prema spasti suchir etan nanu manaha. Quote, think for yourself, my dear mind, whether prem, which is pure by nature, will touch your heart if there is this untouchable woman dancing. Perhaps the most interesting word here is drushta, meaning that she is seamless. This actually means that all the anarthas have already gone away by virtue of the holy name. But the seamless one, the desire for respect, is still saying. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that the very last demon is when we want to be distinguished for our devotional service. A person may say, quote, look how well I know the scriptures. I'm a great preacher. So now I'm going to save everyone by my preaching, unquote. In other words, when people start deeming themselves to be spiritual master or guru, this anartha is the root of all other anarthas. In accordance with the teachings of Sanatana Goswami and the Hari Bhakti Vilas, if we don't drive this away, everything else will come back. The merry woman that's dancing in the heart will call back all the other anarthas. Come on, come on. So Raghunath Das Goswami says, quote, as long as she is there, Sadhu Prem, pure Prem, will never touch the heart. There will be no love in the heart because it will remain desecrated. Krishna provides all opportunity to fulfill this desire to be great. This persisting childish desire for recognition, honor, and to be the center of the attention is the last to remain in our hearts, and it discredits everything else that we are doing. So all other problems come as a result of the envy that appear because of the pratishta asa, the desire for pratishta, the desire to be distinguished, to show off, the desire to show that I'm special, I'm exclusive, and the best. Therefore, we can see that true spiritual culture always teaches humility. Humility is the password through which, to some extent, a person can feel Krishna. If you look at the Vedic culture from the very beginning, it explains that God does everything, not us. So there are many achievements in the Vedic history which are anonymous. No one puts any signature to them. Most of the names we don't know, not even the number of the holy persons there were, what to speak of their names. History has not preserved them, and they did not want to be noted. For example, we practically know nothing about Gopal Bhatt Goswami, one of the greatest acharya in our Sampradaya. Actually, the next one after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Practically speaking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made Gopal Bhatt Goswami his successor. He sent him his asan, kupina, and bahivas, all of which are still preserved in the temple of Radharaman, and that is the deity is self-manifested. And there is another Vishnu Murti is also is self-manifested in Vrindavan. So there are two deities are there in Vrindavan which are self-manifested. Even Radha Raman himself came to him in response to his prayers. But Gopal Bhatt Goswami asked Krishnadas Kaviraj, please don't say a word about me. What a nice And this is something Trunit ape sunichana daror sahisnuna. Amanina manadena kirtaniya shadahari. That we have to become humble than the blade of grass, tolerant than a tree. Give the respect to all without expecting any respect from anyone. In that state of mind, we will be able to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra constantly. So this is the secret. And in Kali Yuga it says, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. That Krishna has descended in this material world in Kali Yuga as a holy name. And that's why it says, holy name, holy name, holy name is everything. So this is a wonderful instructions to hear in the morning. And we will continue reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. We are on volume number 4, chapter 5. A lot of ground to be covered. One day Prabhupada visited Hanuman Prasad Podar. Mr. Podar had been gravely ill for some time, but he was able to sit up and speak briefly with Prabhupada. As a pioneer of the Kalyan magazine, which printed installment of the Mahabharata and other Vedic classics, Hanuman Prasad Podar was a world-famous patron of Indian religious thought. His inexpensive Hindi Bhagavad Gita translation had been distributed by the millions, so that even a poor man could have a copy of Bhagavad Gita. Mr. Podar had been a friend to Prabhupada when in 1962 Prabhupada had come to him in Gorakhpur and showed him his manuscript for the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. Appreciating the importance of the work, Mr. Podar, by his word of approval, had helped Prabhupada get a donation for its printing from the Delhi industrialist Mr. Dalmia. Now, almost 10 years later, Prabhupada was showing Mr. Podar his recently published books Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, The Nectar of Devotion, and his magazine, Back to Godhead. Mr. Podar was impressed, and he and Prabhupada exchanged their sincere appreciation of each other's work. Mr. Suryakant Fogla, he explained this incident in his own words as follows. Hanuman Prasad Podar was my grandfather. He was very much ill at the time Prabhupada came here to meet him in his bedroom upstairs. There are certain things which cannot be explained, but they were talking in the language of their eyes. My grandfather expressed some gratitude, some affection, some regard by his eyes. And Prabhupada's reply was also in the same way. The appreciation from both sides could easily be seen and appreciated by the person who were present. A lot of Prabhupada disciples were there, and everyone was almost in tears when those two saints, great people, met and talked to each other. They were talking about the spiritual world, and they were praising each other for their deeds. My grandfather also was saying that what Prabhupada has done It is unforgettable for anyone of the world. Because to take our Indian culture to Western countries, the credit entirely goes to our beloved Prabhupada. And he was the only person who took Radha Krishna and the holy name outside India in such a way that nobody else could and will be able to do even in the future. Haribol. Since Mr. Podar was ill and weak, Prabhupada left after about half an hour. Prabhupada has spent 2 weeks in Gorakhpur and now he was eager to go to Bombay, leaving 2 disciples behind to attend the deity worship and continue preaching in Gorakhpur. He left. So we are starting another incident. ISKCON's Bombay headquarters was a 4-room flat on the 7th floor of the Akash Ganga building. Rent was nearly 3,000 rupees a month, and the devotee had no guaranteed monthly income. Yet, because the building was in a vital, prestigious location, Prabhupada had taken the risk. Such a headquarters would be a necessary base for the preaching he wanted to do in Bombay. And his next preaching would be a grand 11-day Pandal program. Quote, if you are going to hunt, unquote, Prabhupada said, then you should hunt for a rhinoceros. I cannot pronounce the name properly. Rhinoceros. In that way, I can see the picture of that animal, but I can't pronounce very well. If you don't succeed, everyone will simply say, oh, it couldn't be done anyway. But if you do succeed, then everyone will be surprised. Everyone will be amazed. Rhinoceros, something. As Prabhupada revealed his plan for a gigantic Pandal festival, the devotees became keenly aware that Prabhupada's inspiration was motivating all their preachings. Without him, they could never attempt anything so bold and ambitious as a giant Pandal festival in Bombay. Often, quote, the American and European disciples, unquote, had been billed along with him as if of equal importance. But the devotees saw themselves as only foolish servants trying to help the genuine, pure devotees of the Lord. Although Prabhupada credited his disciple knew that Prabhupada was Krishna's empowered representative. He was their authority and personal link to Krishna. His words and actions evince full transcendental potency. As Krishna was unlimited, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's dearest friend, was entitled to demand unlimited service on Krishna's behalf. In the service of Krishna, no project was impossible. Impossible, Prabhupada said, was a word in a fool's dictionary. So we can say, and a lot of the time I say, that we are using only 9% of the ability that Krishna has given us. We have not yet touched 91% of the ability that Krishna has given us, is stored in our heart. But as Prabhupada unfolded his plan for the Pandal festival, the devotees doubted. How could they ever raise the money? How could they erect such a huge rent? Where would they get so much food? And who would cook it? Prabhupada seems amused at the doubts. Quote, "You are all Americans," unquote, he said. So, what is the use of being American unless you do something wonderful? A Bombay Pandal, Prabhupada said, would be the perfect way to link America's ingenuity with India's spirituality. He gave the example of a blind man and a lame man. Although separately they are helpless, but by cooperating, the blind man can carry the lame man on his shoulder, and the lame man giving directions. The two can work successfully. America, because of the materialism and ignorance of God, was blind, and India, because of foreign invasions, poverty, and misinterpretations of Vedic knowledge, was lame. America had technological advancement and wealth, and India had spiritual knowledge. The job of the Krishna consciousness movement was to combine the two strengths and uplift the world. And one practical application would be the Bombay Pandal Festival. So Prabhupada divided the work, assigning Shyam Sundar to publicity, Tamal Krishna to be Pandal arrangement, Giriraj to fundraising, and Madhudvis to these casual programs on stage. Catching Prabhupada's spirit of, quote, shooting the uh, rhinoceros, unquote. Shyam Sundar organized a massive publicity campaign with giant posters and banners strung across the streets, announcing, quote, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada will speak in English language about the science of God. Prasadam distribution and bhajan singing will be led by his American and European bhaktas. Hare Krishna Festival at Cross Maidan, March 25th to April 4th. So Giriraj Maharaj is explaining this in his own words as follows. Srila Prabhupada took Bombay by storm. The whole city was alive with excitement about the Hare Krishna festival. We had banners at all the major intersections in Bombay. We had posters up on all the walls, many posters on every wall, and we had very big advertisement in the newspaper with a beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada superimposed over a globe and the words Bhagavad Dharma discourses, a Hare Krishna festival, world preacher of Bhakti cult, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So day by day, the momentum grew more and more, and every day something new was happening. Finally, in the last 2 days, we got a huge billboard at Victoria train station, the busiest intersection of downtown Bombay. By then, everyone knew so much about the festival and where it was going to be, and everything that all this billboard said was Hare Krishna in huge letters. By then, everyone knew. So just these two huge words, Hare Krishna, was enough. Then Shyam Sundar had arranged for a big helium-filled balloon that was attached to a very long rope at the Cross Maidan site. The balloon just hovered over the city, and there was a streamer attached to the balloon saying Hare Krishna Festival. And it was real American ingenuity, flair, and dynamism. Inspired by Shyam Sundar's lead and taking up a spirit of competition, the other devotees worked at their project with great enthusiasm. When Prabhupada called a meeting of the local ISKCON life members and supporters, the turnout was disappointing, only about a dozen. And even those, on hearing the proportion of Prabhupada's plan, became hesitant. The festival would cost more than 100,000 rupees, although some life members doubted whether the devotees could actually execute such a large production. A handful of stalwart Sadhaji Vatlal, Chandulal Bhau, Kartikeya Mahadevya, Kailas Saksariya, Ramchand Shabriya, G.D. Somani, and others vowed they would do their best to help raise the funds. Prabhupada remained actively involved, and he warned his disciples to be wary of cheaters during their business transactions. Every night, the devotees would report to him, and he would ask about many details. He wanted the best location, the best work, and the best price. He wanted to know everything. What about the cooking area? Are all the devotees working to their full capacity? Is the mailing list complete? Have the invitation been sent? What about the latrines? What was the cost for the sound system? He scrutinized every detail with sharp, critical intelligence. The Giriraj fundraising work was going well. He had donations solicited from businessmen and had printed a souvenir pamphlet. But he was feeling a strain, and he came to Prabhupada for solace. Quote, "Can we use force in Krishna consciousness?" he asked. Prabhupada frowned. "No, we cannot use force." Quote, "But what if we see one of the worker is lazy on the job and not doing what he is supposed to do?" "No," Prabhupada replied, "we can never use the force." "Well, what about in making life member? Force we cannot use?" Prabhupada repeated. "But we can trick them." He told a story about a boy who didn't want to do arithmetic. And as soon as the teacher wrote 1 plus 1 on the board, the boy would balk. So the teacher drew a picture of a cow on the board and asked the boy, quote, "If a man has one cow and then he buys another cow, how many cows will he have?" And the boy answered two. Thus the teacher began teaching him arithmetic, even though he was unwilling to learn. Quote, "So people may be averse to serving Krishna," unquote, Prabhupada explained, "but we can trick them and get them to serve without their knowing it. But we can never use force. These people are all businessmen. They are always calculating profit and loss. But they are also pious and they want to go to Krishna. So you have to convince them that by giving this money, they will gain so much by coming closer to Krishna. And that is the truth. When they are convinced, then they will give." I think one more paragraph. Prabhupada had ordered from Jaipur 2 sets of large white marble deities paid for by a donation from R.D. Birla. One set was to be installed in the Bombay temple and the other worshipped at the pandal, and later sent to one of the temples in the west. But the devotees were anxious that the deities be finished and shipped on time. And there were other sources of anxiety right up until the very day of the festival. Pandal construction, prasadam distribution, seating arrangement, sound system, whether this thing would be ready on time and whether there would be enough money remain uncertain. But under Prabhupada's direction, the devotees work steadily with firm faith in Krishna. And that is what is required. We should have complete faith in Krishna, and Krishna can supply. We cannot, we have no ability, but Krishna always intervene. And Prabhupada also says so many times that what Krishna sees is your sincerity and your desire to serve Him, not that how much you collected. Krishna always look for with uh, which mentality we are serving Krishna, just to please Him without expecting anything in return from Krishna. Then Krishna will fulfill everything. He is the owner of everything. He is the creator. Just look at the billions of universes floating in the universe. There is no collision. Who can do this? Only Krishna can do. I always give an example that if you want to build a 60,000 gallon swimming pool, you have to put so much concrete base to hold 60,000 gallons of water. But look at the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, they are 1,000 miles deep. No concrete foundation is required. Just by the sweet will of Krishna, they can hold the water. So everything happens by the will of Krishna. We should never try to be a controller of anything. We have to remain as servant of the servant of the servant. Don't criticize anyone. That is not our business, because Krishna always take care. We don't have to worry. Just remain absorbed to please Krishna. Don't think about anything else. You just keep on doing whatever is inspired within your heart and continue doing it. And Krishna will see our sincere effort. He's sitting in our heart. He knows every thoughts that pass through our mind and heart. We will never be able to cheat Krishna. We can cheat thousands of people, but we will never be able to cheat Krishna. He is always there. And He knows our previous life. He knows the present life. And He also knows our future life. So we always want to depend on Krishna and just do what you can. So we will end our session before the devotees leave. We should be punctual in our practices. With those start, I would like to offer my humble obeisances at the desk of this wonderful devotees' feet by uttering the prayer.